$1 a day can buy you great radio. At the Voice of Stockton, the GoFundMe is a way to help ensure you have great radio here in Stockton. You can be the Voice of Stockton on KXVS. Go to our website, thevoiceofstockton.org, to get more information. Right here on 92.1 FM. Coming soon.
KXVS on 92.1 coming soon. KXVS.
And welcome to Gamer Life 209 here live on KXVS, the voice of Stockton. I am your host today, Joe Biscacci, joined in the studio by a couple of guests that we have pretty often, but we got a newcomer too. So let's go down the line, starting with people who are not new.
What's up? It's Donovan Mazuski joining the crew.
Ira Ford continuing with the crew.
I'm Brendan, and I'm new to the crew.
The crew.
So, Brendan, how about you tell us a little bit about your gaming background, I guess? Like, what kind of games do you play a lot? What kind of game genres are you into? And maybe some of your favorite games.
Well, as far as genre, I mostly play FPSs, but I've got a big catalog of different games I've played, and some of my favorites, at the very least currently, is Doom and The Elder Scrolls Online.
Okay, so kind of like a mix of first-person shooters and like Western RPGs.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Doom's really cool. I really like Doom.
Yeah, I got to
really
play
cool
some
game.
of that as well myself, and it is actually a really fun, fast-paced first-person shooter.
Okay, I mean, are you guys like proud with it as a remake?
Yeah. Like, I think it's a good, like, because translating Doom's mechanics, like, you can go back and play Doom, and Doom's fun, but it doesn't age well, or it doesn't age great. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because it's, you know, it's like an older
it's a very
style.
primitive first-person shooter. I think that the new Doom captured the sense of the old Doom in terms of like the frenetic and kind of chaotic action like dodging projectiles and stuff like that.
I was really mostly worried about the movement of the game.
Yeah.
Like the movement style and like how you move around
it feels
enemies.
great. Or at least on console, Doom is the best feeling first-person shooter I've ever played on a console.
Is it?
Yes,
really?
hands down.
That is quite a statement.
With that being said, for me to make it that, I had to go through some options to like kind of tweak some settings. But because I think the game was developed for a PC-first kind of mindset, it has a lot of control options. Like it has a lot of options that
Very
most
customizable.
Console games don't have. Things like you can completely get rid of analog stick delay. So the second that you put any pressure on the analog stick, it picks it up.
Just like the slightest little bit.
Which makes it feel awesome because there's no delay. When you move something, it moves. So yeah, I mean, and the single player, like I said, it captures the essence of what the original Doom is, but brings it into this kind of new era of first-person shooters. It's a little bit less corridor shooter and a little bit more like arena.
It looks like that,
Like it opens up into areas and then you kill all the enemies in an area and then you kind of move through a corridor to another open area.
That's cool, though. That makes sense because, like, with the new super free movement that
exactly.
you're describing, I'm watching some of it now, like, it would be very much wasted in, like, a corridor
Yeah,
setting.
exactly. It would be absolutely wasted in a corridor setting.
And you know what? I remember, I think, was it E3? I think it was E3, when they were showing, like first footage of the game, they were showing it in a corridor setting, I guess to make it look like old Doom.
Yeah.
And that to me, like I looked at the movement and I was like, this doesn't really match.
When the game opens up in kind of a corridor setting, but I think it's just to kind of teach you how the game, like it's baby steps, right? So
this is Doom, but now
you open up into a corridor so that you can kill guys that are directly in front of you, just to show you how to kill guys, and then they kind of open up and let you move around and stuff. We kind of got a little tangential there. Like I said, that's what happens on this show. Let's go down the line and talk about what people have been playing recently. I guess we kind of already talked about that, Brendan, with the
Yeah.
Yeah, with the Doom and the Elder Scrolls. But what about you, Ira and Donovan?
Well, I recently haven't been playing that much new games recently, but I've been following news and I've watched a few Let's Plays. Like I said, during this past week, The Last Guardian came out, so I watched Let's Plays videos on that, and I'm enjoying the puzzle aspects of the game and how you got to guide your creature. Your creature, Trico is what it's called, to help you figure different puzzles and stuff like that. And also Dead Rising 4 came out as well, and enjoying seeing some of that as well. But the only thing I could say I've been playing recently would probably still be Call of Duty Black Ops 3. But other than that, yeah.
Okay. Now that's a little interesting to me though, because with The Last Guardian, like Eco was a very much puzzle-solving game.
Yeah.
On the flip side, Shadow of the Colossus, very much puzzle-solving.
It was puzzle-solving in a different way.
Yeah,
and it was the puzzle was, how do I take down this Colossus?
And it was very epic.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know, are there any enemies in, like, from what you've seen?
Well,
not to give away any spoilers, but like,
there are a bit of enemies in the game, but it's not like you don't have anything to attack the enemies with, so you pretty much got to avoid them.
Okay.
At every cost.
That makes
sense.
sense.
Try to figure out different puzzles to
get away
escape
from them.
and things like that. Because the whole goal of the Last Guardian, you're basically trying to escape this giant castle type place, and
okay, all right,
by solving puzzles and things like that with the creature.
That's cool. I'm satisfied as long as there's like a type of bad guy presence, in the game, and it's not like, hey, you got a big dragon, you want to run around.
There has to be some threat. Right, you can't just have a game with no antagonist. You can't have something propelling the player along for some reason. So, I don't know.
Saving. Well, games I've been playing recently, not too many. I've been watching a lot of shows, but I replayed The Last of Us just because I'm like really into Naughty Dog, and then watching the trailer made me like want to play it, so I replayed the first one. Super fun still. And then I played The Wolf Among Us a while ago.
But, before you get to I want to cut back for a second.
All right.
How long was your playthrough of The Last of Us?
Still playing it.
Okay, you're still playing it.
Started it.
How many hours in are you?
Hours in? How much time have I spent? 4, 5 hours in? Yeah.
How long do you think an average playthrough of it is?
Of The Last of Us? Well, if you play it right, it's going to be a while. Probably, I don't know, 13 hours?
Okay.
Maybe.
That's doable in one sitting.
Yeah. If you're doing it.
Yeah.
But for most people, probably a little bit longer. Anyway, Telltale games, I'm a super fan of them now because I played the first episode of Game of Thrones because it's a Game of Thrones, and I was like, I like that. Sure. Loved it. Then I played, of course, the Back to the Future one. That was great. And then I bought, I was like, I want all 5 of one thing. So I played, so I got The Wolf Among Us, and I love that game. Like, it is, I know I'm way late, to get on the Telltale hype, but I don't know, I would say if you guys like story-driven games, and puzzle-solving games, those are the games to play, really.
Yeah.
Joey, what have you been
playing?
playing?
Best known for.
Smite. I get on Smite to do dailies, and then I haven't really been playing much on my PS4 because it's starting to fall apart. I think.
What do you mean?
I think it's old, and I've put a lot of hours on it, and I think it's starting to fall apart internally. Fans doing weird things. It's getting overheat messages sometimes, depending on what I'm playing. Yeah, so
okay.
I don't know how much longer it's going to hold out. I might be able to just bust it open and clean it, but
are you going to move to the Pro?
I don't know.
No,
probably not.
Probably not.
Probably not. I don't. Because they haven't because they're not focusing on 1080-60. I don't care. I don't have a 4K TV. I don't care about resolution, really. I care about games running at a good, consistent frame rate.
The 4 has 1080-60, right?
Not on everything. Most things only have 4K 30 options.
Oh.
It's 1080-30 or 4K 30.
I have learned, too, that the frame rate is more important than the resolution.
Yeah. It's way more important than the resolution. I mean, depending on, I guess it depends on what you're playing, right? If you're playing a cinematic, first person, or not first person, but single player experience, maybe it's fine to run it at 4K 30, because 30 FPS is more cinematic, according to some people. I mean, I guess it is, because
Close to
films
24.
run at 24. A lot of things run at 30 nowadays, but some people might be willing to sacrifice that frame rate for that visual fidelity in a game where gameplay isn't a priority, I guess you could say. But like one of the reasons that everybody for a long time was like, oh, I don't know why, but Call of Duty just feels better than other shooters. Like during the Xbox 360 and PS3 era, that was a common sentiment you would hear from people. And you'd ask them why, and they'd be like,
said too.
I don't know, it just feels better. It's because it runs at 60 frames a second, and nothing else ran at 60 frames a second at the time. So, of course, Call of Duty feels better than everything else because it's better than everything else. You know what I mean?
You can see what's going on.
You can see that it's running better than everything else. So, I understand that Sony probably wants to push 4K TVs. And in a lot of ways, people have been saying that the PS4 Pro is to 4K TVs what the PS3 was to 1080p TVs. I don't know if that's really the case, but that's what people are saying. If that's the direction Sony's going down, fine, good for them. I'm sure they want to push. I'm sure that because their gaming division is so strong, their hardware divisions are kind of come on, man, we need a boost. Can't you just put out something that incentivizes people to get our 4K TVs or something like that? So they did. It's really on the developers to prioritize whether or not they want to do 1080-60 in addition to 4K 30, right? Because they have to do 4K something. So the 1080-60 part is just an add-on. It's just something that they would have to put effort into extra. And is that worth it for most developers when they could be adding DLC to the game or new weapons or some kind of actual substantial content? No, you're going to have a team go and work on making this game run on this different PS4 Pro setting. I don't know. It's just, I don't know.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean. I would personally, I would prefer the 60.
Yeah.
I
So
think most people.
We'll see if more companies jump on and optimize their games for 1080-60 on the PS4 Pro. But right now, it's not really looking that way. So I'm not seeing the PS4 Pro as really being a worthwhile investment. Especially me not having 4K TV. It's the point.
Yeah. Well, okay. So even if you don't have a 4K TV, though, it still looks better, though.
Not. I mean, sure, it looks better, but that's only if you're running it in the the PS4 Pro mode. The thing about it is that the way the system's designed is it's basically a PS4 with a little bit extra that can just turn on to give it extra. So most games just run it with regular PS4 specs. The console is usually using regular PS4 specs and power. It's when you turn something onto PS4 Pro mode that the little bit extra kicks in and turns on and gives the console the boost that it needs to render 4K or whatever. So when you're playing a game on a PS4 Pro that is just a PS4 game, it's going to run like it does on a regular PS4, generally speaking. So,
but I mean, the hardware is more tweaked to be just a little bit better, a little bit more reliable.
But not really. That's the thing. Is
That's
from
what I was
testing,
for.
Some people are finding marginal frame rate increases and a little bit better consistency. But these are in games that run bad on a regular PS3 or PS4. Things like The Last Guardian, things like Fallout, things that already at the time ran at 20 frames a second in some bits, now can hover around a more consistent 27. But it's, I don't know, just not enough power.
Okay.
And it's not, I don't think it's worth it. I don't think the PS4 Pro is worth it. I was kind of a proponent of it when they first announced it, but now that we've seen, everything happen, not really into it.
Okay, last thing. We're kind of talking about this a lot, but in terms of price differences between the 4 Pro and the 4, is there a huge difference?
It's $100. Yeah.
Okay, well, that's kind of reasonable. That I would expect.
Yeah, I mean, I guess.
It's not
I
like
guess it's reasonable.
they're not acting like it's a new console or anything.
No, it's like an upgraded version of the current console.
Okay, I'm
Just to be
satisfied
expected.
with my info now. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see if the PS4 Pro ends up being any better. I have higher hopes for the Scorpio because I think that Microsoft's taking a different approach. Since their console already kind of works like a PC, they can just make a console that works like a PC.
Right.
So, games will just run on the Scorpio regardless of whatever hardware you have in it because that's how PCs work.
Now, Brendan, you're a Xbox guy. What do you think about the Scorpio?
The Scorpio, I'm unsure of what to think for the most part, but I think it's got a lot of good ideas in the way it moves forward. From what I heard, it's going to be using separate games entirely. Like Project Scorpio is going to be its own catalog of games, but it's Aux 1 games.
Okay.
That's what it looks like. That's what I read.
Be interesting.
But I'm also seeing the fact that from just little tidbits here and there, it's going to not just be a slight boost to graphics or quality. Mm-hmm. It's going to be a big one. It's just going to jump from what I'm understanding.
Okay.
So yeah, Scorpio's a ways off at this point. We'll probably see more about it at E3 next year, but right now the details on it are very, very slim.
Yeah.
I guess to wrap up what I've been playing, I got on Destiny for a minute last night because Iron Banner's happening, and then got into one Iron Banner match. Was doing okay. Got a contacting Destiny server message at the bottom, then got kicked from the game, like kicked from the server, and I was like, that's a sign I shouldn't be playing Destiny. So I just got off and went and did other things.
Dang. All right. Okay.
I might get back on at some point.
Now, do you still play Destiny? Like, do you just like hop on there like every so often?
Yeah, I jump on every once in a while when things are worth. Like Iron Banner's happening right now, and one of the items available through the Iron Banner is pretty good. So, part of me wants to jump on there and get it, but then at the same time, I don't want to play for 8 hours to work to get it. That's Destiny. It's always an internal struggle of, do I really want to play this? I guess. It's fine. I hope Destiny 2 is a lot better.
Yeah,
that's my only thing.
I'm not even like a Destiny guy. I was like in huge support of the game before it came out. After it came out, I was like, it's not really what I expected. But yeah, I'm hoping for Destiny 2 to be like the most, because they talked about Destiny as if when it before reaching back a while ago. You guys remember when Destiny was coming out? They were like, this is the game of all games. It's the most amazing thing ever. It was
super hyped.
And then it came out, and again, like it was a great game. And I think that like the way they brought you into like the intro of the game was very kind of like respectful and expecting that you already thought it was going to be the best game ever. And then of course after you play it's like a different type of game. But it was not quite like what I think a lot of people expected, because they talked it up to be like the best thing ever. So
and not only that, but they were incredibly vague about what it was. You know what I mean? Like tons of people got the game and was like, "Wait a minute, this isn't Halo." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was a little bit disappointed with Destiny.
Yeah, a lot of people were just like, where is the campaign? Where is the story? And to be fair, Destiny has a great story. It's just not told to the player.
Yeah, it's kind of buried.
You have to find it through Grimoire cards and like item descriptions and like, but not like how Dark Souls or like a Souls game does it. Like a Souls game does it right. I think Bungie saw that and was like, let's do that, but didn't know how to do it correctly. Or like they just tried to tack that system onto a game that it didn't work with as a, I guess, cutting corners on the story. Because the other thing about it too is, apparently from rumors and stories that have leaked and stuff, apparently Destiny's story got completely wiped and redone in a year before the game came out, because the Activision had like compartmentalized the dev team. So different teams were all working on different things at once. So when Joseph Staten, the original, writer over at Bungie, like the lead kind of guy at Bungie, came to, the leads, like leading the project with the story, they were like, oh, this doesn't work. This doesn't work with what we're doing. You need to change it. And that's why Joseph Staten, left the company, and they put new writers on the game.
Oh,
because they needed to just whip up a story really fast, because the story that the team originally made didn't work with the game that the other dev sections had made.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense.
And that's why the story is non-existent, basically, and it doesn't make any sense. And it's kind of like, what is going on here? You know what I mean? So
I think games that have a story that's not put in your face, but it's like it exists, and you can kind of find it through the game. I think those are cool because they're like, if you want the story, you can find it and it'll be there, so you're not just OCD running around in the game like, I don't understand why I'm doing anything because there's no story.
That's kind of the Souls approach, Dark Souls and Demon Souls.
Yeah, and that wasn't the thing that was like, but it's also, I think it's like an indicator. It's indicative. I think, is that a word? Okay, it's indicative because I've heard you say it and I want to use it. It's indicative, and it tells you that they wanted the game to be for everyone. They're like, oh, if they like story, then have a story in there, kind of, if they want to find it. If they don't like story and they just like looting and shooting, then let them do that, And it's kind of like, of course, you can't please everyone, and I think you can kind of see that, in the outcome. The outcome of the game. Yeah. But we've talked about Destiny.
Yeah, we've talked about Destiny too much at this point. We should probably move on to, I guess, what the show was really about. There were some events a couple weeks ago, a while ago, let's say. The Game Awards, of course, hosted by Jeff Keighley.
Yes, it was a good show too.
Yeah, it was all right. And
the PlayStation Experience as well.
Yes, the PlayStation Experience, PSX. PSX had a press conference the day it started, 10 a.m. or something like that. So we got a bunch of announcements to roll through and just kind of give our opinions on what we think about everything. Now, it's not in any real particular order, but it's in semi chronological order. It's weird how I did it. So some things, generally the thing that started and ended the show, we're going to talk about it where it's supposed to be, but the fluff in the middle is kind of all over the place. Starting us off here, Death Stranding 2016 Game Awards trailer. Of course, Jeff Keighley gave the Lifetime Achievement Award to Kojima. Yeah. And then, of course, Kojima can't just not provide anything, so he came with a trailer.
For
you guys watch it? What do you think about it?
Oh, Death Stranding. I thought it was an interesting, unique reveal that they did with the actor's name. I forgot what his name is. Mad Mikkelsen. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was revealed to be the bad guy or the antagonist of the game, and that was a huge reveal. And also the other director, Del Toro.
Guillermo del Toro.
Yeah, he's also in the trailer as well. If you watch it though, it's a weird but interesting trailer in my opinion though, and I can't wait to see more of that trailer though when it comes out. Did you guys see the trailer for Death Stranding?
It was. What I would say is that I feel like Hideo Kojima is going out of his way to make sure this works out and does well. And now that he's not working with Konami, who tended to hold him back in certain cases, he's able to more show his visions.
Yeah.
And when that happens, you get the genius out of Hideo Kojima. And I thought the trailer was great. There's little things that I feel like unless you're paying attention, you're going to miss them. And overall, it feels like it feels like the trailer isn't just giving you something to look at. That trailer looked more like it was already telling a story. As the man carrying the tube, it looked like
Yeah,
whatever you want to call it there.
Baby canister.
Yeah. Which is just messed up. Yeah. But something I noticed after a couple seconds of looking at when he was holding it, he had what looked like handcuffs on. So something I would assume is he was either a prisoner or more likely like a scientist who worked on what was in the baby canister. And maybe he's escaping with it because he's trying to do something better with it, like maybe bring it to a place where it'll be safe and it can grow and potentially maybe be the one to return the world to order or whatever that may be. That's just what I'm thinking. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah. That's a good. I'd say that's a good analogy. It's a nice theory. I definitely agree with you on the fact that he's not being held back. That was him.
Oh yeah, it's totally Kojima unhinged, right?
It's like, hey guys, and he's just. I feel like when I looked at the game, I got the sense that like everything that was in there was an amalgamation of like ideas that he threw out like in a meeting, and they're like
they're all just cut Metal Gear ideas. That people were like, no, Kojima, that's too crazy. You can't put that in a Metal Gear game.
Even though it's based on crazy?
Yeah, Metal Gear in itself is like the antithesis, or not antithesis, but it is what crazy is. Metal Gear is just crazy all the time.
Yeah.
So,
truly.
To think that Kojima could get crazier...
I was terrified and impressed by the trailer. Really, I was confused, but also like intrigued. And I guess that's kind of what he wanted to do to like his audience. So now I'm super gonna follow like the progress of the game, even if I don't even like ever pick up a controller to play it. I'm gonna know like everything about it because it's so.
That's kind of what Hideo Kojima's good at.
Yeah.
Is, like, say what you want about him, that he's a crazy writer, that he's not very good. Call him a hack if you want. But one thing I feel is almost undeniable is he has this way to introduce things in an unusual manner and get your interest on it because you're like, what's going on? You become slightly invested, and as it goes forward, you get more invested. And
yeah.
And another thing that I think is lost on people, like a lot of people do kind of throw shade at Kojima because, like we said, the Metal Gear series is kind of crazy and silly in a lot of ways. But he has an undeniable like level of cinematography skill.
Yeah,
and,
I agree with that. You saw that in the trailer as well.
Yeah, we've seen it since Metal Gear 1, even because like Metal Gear 1, or not Metal Gear 1, I guess I should say Metal Gear Solid 1, not the MSX games, the PS1 game. Those sprites are garbage. You know what I mean? Like you can barely tell what those sprites even are, but they managed to convey emotion through those scenes in a way that very few games, especially at the time, did. You know, nothing at the time. You could say, like, Final Fantasy VII or whatever, but, like you get some real feels during some of those scenes in Metal Gear Solid 1.
They hit me right in the feels.
Yeah.
If you go to, like, any YouTube compilation of, like, games, if you go to anyone that's, like, there's a bunch of them, like every video game. I want to call them YouTube magazines because they're like channels that are like magazines. They do like a video on like the most gripping, and like 2 of those games are Metal Gear games.
Yeah, they're always Metal Gear games because, and over time, the cinematography has just gotten better as the tools Kojima has available to him have gotten better. Metal Gear 2, great cinematography. Metal Gear 3. Some of those scenes are the most iconic scenes in video game history.
Truly.
You know what I mean? Metal Gear 4 like sums everything up for everybody and has a bunch of great scenes. And like Metal Gear Solid 5, say what you want about its story or kind of lack thereof, the cutscenes are masterfully crafted. And like just the way, you know, a lot of them are all long takes, so there's not a lot of cutting involved. It really makes you feel like you're in that experience. And I don't know. That's great. Great. Why doesn't Kojima make movies?
No kidding.
I don't know. I do wonder that. I feel
he did express he has some type of interest in getting into movie making someday, but he actually when he left Capcom, he actually had a decision to go into making movies, but he still chose to make games though. Yeah. So
I can see him making like anime movies. You guys know what I mean? Like
and I feel that love for the movies that he has also attracted Guillermo del Toro to him to do Death Stranding.
Yep.
Because Guillermo del Toro, absolutely great director. He's great with his ability to induce horror in a movie without throwing things at your face.
Yeah, he doesn't do jump scares. He does, like, eerily creepy... You just feel uncomfortable during scenes.
Like with Pan's Labyrinth,
Yeah,
the early stages with the creature whose name I always forget.
Yeah.
That's one of the few things in movies that really gave me the chills.
The Fawn? Or do you mean the
Eye Guy?
The Eye Guy.
Yeah, Eye Guy.
Yeah. He was. There was that other movie he made that I can't remember, but he made another movie like Pan's Labyrinth, but older. I don't even. Is very much like with Pan's Labyrinth.
Yeah.
Whatever. We'll talk about it later.
Anyway, Death Stranding, super interesting, super cryptic. Apparently, if you link the E3 trailer and the PSX trailer together, it's crazy. So yeah, that's exciting. Moving on, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. We got a little bit of gameplay. I think a trailer leaked before the event, or maybe not leaked, but like Nintendo put out a trailer with some gameplay. New dungeon area, looks cool. I think it's the right move for the Legend of Zelda series. What do you guys think about it?
After watching some of the gameplay that was recently released, I'd have to say picking up the little pieces that I didn't already know came together in a way that gave me more hope for it than probably just about any other game series or single game ever. Like, I'm incredibly excited for it. What I liked is the fact that it almost exactly took over one of my dreams, is to see a Legend of Zelda game with all these little aspects, like the fact that you're not stuck to a sword, and the bow isn't just an item that's later on in the game and has very few applicable uses. It feels like they're taking steps from like RPGs, more popular ones, and then they're blending it into their game to get a game that captures the best of both worlds, and it just looks so impressive. It's great. It looks beautiful. I'm liking all the things I've seen for it, and I'm really excited.
Same.
Yeah, pretty much agreed. Yeah, that new trailer that they showed off recently at the Game Awards. Yeah, it's like you said, they are taking a lot of RPG elements from a lot of other AAA title games. It also sort of does remind me a bit of the Witcher 3 vibe from added into the Zelda world. Even though,
I see that.
Even though the Witcher 3 is obviously a more realistic, mature game, but still, though, I like the fact that they're even attempting to add some of that vibe to Zelda.
It's like
in terms of gameplay mechanics.
If someone looked at Skyward Sword and then the Wind Waker, I guess in some way, I guess like someone looked at the Wind Waker and then they looked at the Witcher and they're like, what would be in the middle of these two? Breath of the Wild.
That's about what I'm feeling.
Yeah, I like a lot of the really small mechanics. I like the fact that now items are actually items.
I love that.
And
that's great.
Armors are armors. You don't have Link running around in the same tunic, just like different colors throughout the game for whatever you need it for. The open world aspect is great. To be fair, like the previous ones were open world to some extent, like even the original like NES and Super NES ones, they were open world.
Yeah, they were, but still more. There were still a lot more restricted areas in the.
Even so, though, like even if you just like think of open world games, this is like a new definition of open world game, really,
for Zelda at least.
For Zelda. Yeah. I mean, obviously, other games have been doing it forever.
Yeah.
It's also, from what I'm hearing, incredibly large. Like some of the biggest news they said with it is the world is going to be approximately 7 times bigger than Skyrim's. So you're looking at a game like Skyrim, which already has a pretty expansive world.
Yeah.
And then making that 7 times bigger, you're getting as close to the records for a pre-generated game's space as possible. I mean, the biggest one ever to have any land map was the first Elder Scrolls, which approximately, they say, if you were to run from one side to the other in game, it would take you months. They say it's essentially the size of Europe.
Really? Didn't know that.
That's real big. The original Elder Scrolls game has the entire like map of Tamriel in it.
And it was all randomly generated as
Yeah.
opposed to pre-generated.
I didn't even know that there was a game that like covered that. It has the whole. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, and like over time, they just got smaller and smaller.
But
In
they
my
were
mind-
dedicated.
Yeah, to be fair, it allows you to put more focus into
course.
areas rather. It's quality over quantity, right?
Right.
When you're doing pixel graphics, you can kind of just randomly make preset aspects or assets, and then make them randomly generate in places. So armor really cool, weapons really cool, all the items and stuff really cool. It looks like the world is, or like the environment is able to be messed with, or not like necessarily messed with, but like interacted with in a scale that is much higher than previous Zelda games, or most games in general.
Yeah, I
being
saw
able
some
to cut down trees to make bridges and stuff like that.
I was seeing some of the wall running kind of aspect from Skyward Sword, but they took it up a notch. When you run out of stamina, I saw Link grab onto the cliffside and start climbing up, which means and it didn't look like a particularly climbable area. Like with the other ones, they have actual vines or ladders.
Yeah.
This looked like it was just part of the environment, and he just happened to run up it, and that was great. I love that.
So, Legend of Zelda is looking really good. Now, there's been rumors that it might get pushed back, so it might not meet the Switch launch date, which, if that's the case, kind of a big hit for Nintendo. But Zelda's going to sell like crazy anyway.
It always does.
So, yeah.
Oh, one more thing though. I mean, because there's only so much you can see in the trailer. Remember, guys, when you play a Zelda game, at least for me, and I would say for most people, just based off the way the games are made, a big like motivator to play the game and something that pulls you into the world is how they start Link off on his journey in the game. Maybe not so much like the older ones, but like the last 4 games, how you start off is definitely like a big part of like while you're playing it. So I mean, if you're looking at the gameplay and you're like, I don't know, that's not really what I was thinking. For the next game, remember, like it's a little different. Like when you like play the game, of course, like
Exactly.
changes the world of the game.
So, next one, Dauntless. Now, this was just a pre-rendered trailer. It comes from a new studio that I think is made up of previous BioWare and Blizzard devs. It looks kind of neat. It's got kind of a cool cartoony art style.
Isn't it like an online RPG type of game?
Yeah, that's the thing is, there might have been more info that's come out about it, but based on just the trailer from the show, my first thought was, oh, this is going to be like a Phantasy Star or like a Monster Hunter or some kind of 4-player co-op kill enemies to get better gear type of game. But like that's just what came across to me on the trailer. With you had the character that's kind of introduced first, and as they're running, more characters are joining them. At the same time, it kind of gives that idea of maybe it's an MMO because they're being joined by characters who are already out in the world. That's the thing about pre-rendered trailers, right?
You can only tell so much.
Yeah,
what's
you
gonna
can only
actually
tell
go
so
wrong.
much. Like, to jump back to the Death Stranding trailer, we can talk a lot about the imagery and, like, everything that's going on in the trailer. We have no idea what the game plays like.
True.
Like, we don't know if it's a Metal Gear game or Metal Gear-esque game or, like, a Silent Hill-esque game. Is it first person? Is it like, we don't even have any of those details. So it's kind of the same with Dauntless, although to some extent they fill you in a little bit more. And, you know, trailers, even cinematic trailers are designed in a way to convey some level of what the game is, right? So they mean to convey something by having the players, like, join together. So what does it mean? Is it an MMO? Is it an online action RPG? Is it a MOBA? Like, that's the other thing, is, like, it could totally be a MOBA, and we would have no idea, because, like,
That's true.
you can watch League of Legends trailers and have no idea that this plays from an isometric, clicky-click type of style of game.
Totally.
Yeah.
But okay.
So,
Personally, based off the trailer, again, it is very vague, but I would say I think Joey's grasp of what the game is probably, I think that's a little bit more likely.
Yeah, it felt a lot. What it looked like a lot was maybe a new style of doing something similar to Monster Hunter. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, it could secretly be an educational game. Trying to trick us to go into school.
Yeah. And it's like, that's a market that, especially on consoles, is vastly untapped. You know what I mean? Like, Monster Hunter is only available on handheld devices, pretty much. You're only getting it on 3DS. And Phantasy Star is only available on PC if you want to play it in English, or otherwise Japanese. So there aren't very many, like, the online kind of character action RPG, which I would say is different than something like Diablo, obviously, right? Because Diablo, it's an isometric kind of clicking action RPG. There's not a market, or there is a market for that, because there isn't very many games in that market right now.
Exactly.
So I think if this is the case, I think it's good. I really like that style of game. So any game that is, and like I said, maybe it's wishful thinking on my part. Maybe I just see the elements of the trailer and I'm like, character action RPG, or whatever that genre is called. The way that genres get so like muddled, because a character action game is something like Bayonetta. So character action RPG, because you're controlling a character in third person and doing moves.
It could be, I'm just waiting for more information on this game.
Yeah, we'll see. There might be more information out in the future on this game. I think it said 2017. So just kind of a loose release date.
No release date, but 2017.
Next one. This is going to be a quick hit. The Walking Dead New Frontier extended first look. I think what I have here might be a new trailer that came out, but not the trailer from the event. The trailer at the event opened up with presumably introducing what I think is a new character. To be fair, I haven't played the Walking Dead series yet, so
I only played the first.
I have a limited understanding of what's going on in the game right now.
I only played the first season, but that's it, though. But
So in the trailer you get kind of introduced to a new character who the trailer set before like the collapse, really. So it's showing this dude getting home and like a family member's died and the family's like distraught about it, but oh no, of course the family member got up because it's zombie time. So he's new character. You see Clem, just a slight frame or two. Clementine.
All right, but real quick, what's like in her relation to the character that we see?
I have no idea.
Are they like?
I don't think so.
There wasn't given much, but it seemed like almost like Clem came in and saved him, and then they just kind of buddied along. That's what it's looking like. But like we've established, Clem was not shown much.
Okay.
So there's only so much we can say about it, but that's what it looked like.
Yeah. It looked interesting as well, and it's also they also said the release date for it is on the 20th, by the way. So
it's coming out soon.
Yeah, so it's like the first two episodes are going to come out on that date.
Yeah, apparently the first episode was so big that they just split it into 2 episodes and they're going to release it at the same time.
Yeah.
So that's kind of neat. So you'll get more out of the first episode of the season than you would typically out of the first episode.
More game is always good.
Yeah, exactly. Moving on, Prey had a short teaser at the show where they then linked to a Game Informer. I guess Game Informer has the exclusive on it. So it was basically a trailer for a gameplay, or like a gameplay trailer, I guess you could say. Prey looks cool. It looks like BioShock, I feel like, in a lot of ways, like space BioShock. Which, in that case, maybe I should be saying it looks like System Shock, because that's space BioShock.
I was going to say that.
The enemies are weird. They're like aliens that can possess objects, and you also have the ability to possess objects.
Oh, yeah. And
so that looks like it has some neat puzzle. Like, it'll probably have some neat puzzle mechanics going on in the game.
Yep.
Other than that, I think visually it looked really, really good. Arcane Studios is really good at making cool, like visually stunning environments as we've seen from the Dishonored games. What do you guys think about the trailer?
Oh yeah, so I enjoyed the trailer, and I'm actually, like you said, I'm getting the BioShock vibe from it, like a BioShock in space vibe. But also obviously I actually did get the chance to actually, when I had gotten my first Xbox 360, to play the original Prey game that came out then. It was like maybe 2006 or something like that. Yeah, and it was actually a fun game at the time. It actually had the Portal thing even before the original Portal came up, but it didn't do it as good as the Portal, but it was still there though. But I'm actually trying to see the connection between this and that one, but
there is no connection.
Really
There's zero connection. Yeah. This is a reboot of the game franchise.
Yeah, but you could obviously change your character in this one as well, and
I think it's only you can choose the gender.
Pretty much the only connection they have is they're both have aliens in them.
Yeah,
but
aliens. Yeah, well, that's interesting. I like it. I think it's going to be cool. It doesn't look like it'll be. It doesn't give to me like a fearful. I'm not afraid like when I'm looking at it, which I was hoping that Prey would be kind of like a very interesting blend of.
Well, of course, that may not being portrayed over the trailer because you're not in, these extended hallways by yourself, listening, waiting for not zombie, but alien to pop up.
You're right.
Zombie-alien.
Zombie-alien. It also looks like maybe they, based off what I've seen, they don't just possess items; they can like look like items. Because in the beginning of the trailer, he walks upstairs and he sees a can,
and he hits the can. He's like, "Oh no, what's this can?"
And then you're like, "Oh, it's not the can. No, what a relief!" And then it's the
Two
other
steps
can.
Forward.
Yeah.
Oh no. You've lied to me.
So I can imagine that like when you're playing the game by yourself,
being paranoid about every object potentially being an alien,
right?
Yeah.
So and then every time it looks like they'll be able to do some cool stuff with it. I was a huge fan of the Prey 2 trailer. A little sad this isn't anything like that, but it looks interesting
nonetheless.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna try to burn through the rest of these pretty quick, except for one of them maybe because it's kind of a big deal. Shovel Knight, Spectre of Torment trailer. It's an add-on for Shovel Knight where you get to play as Spectre Knight. Spectre Knight's really cool. Of course, like usual, the graphics are beautiful. Shovel Knight just is a great-looking game.
Yes,
you know what I mean? They really do something with pixel art that a lot of other teams just can't. And although they kind of cheat, they try to make it look like an NES game, but they use a way broader color palette than any NES would ever be able to put out.
Of course.
So they cheat to some extent, but
use the tools they have.
Yeah, who cares? It's the modern day. No. It's like everything needs to be just like it was.
Yeah.
No kidding.
I like Shovel Knight.
Yeah. So what do you guys think? Shovel Knight, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's cool trailers. Short trailers, just like DLC for normal Shovel Knight. Here's kind of the main one. Mass Effect Andromeda. They had a bit of gameplay. Looks like Mass Effect.
That's okay. So when I looked at it, it looked like, oh, this is a big, pretty. And I was expecting it to be a totally different game because I just had a misconception. But to me, it looks like a new, big, pretty Mass Effect.
Yeah,
there wasn't anything
big, pretty Mass Effect
particularly compelling to me. It looks like a game for other Mass Effect players.
Yeah,
it doesn't seem like trying to draw anything.
Yeah, the trailer, I actually did enjoy it, but I actually like the open world aspect of this more because I played the first Mass Effect, but I never played the second or the third one, and it was a linear game, so I'm actually liking this. This is actually reminding me more of the first Mass Effect game.
Yeah,
and that's what I liked about it. So that's why I'm looking forward to it a lot. And plus the open world aspect, since I also like open world games where you can use vehicles and stuff like that, which is what this has. So yeah, that's what I like as well. And you'll be able to travel to different planets and stuff like that too. So yeah.
Well, I'm incredibly excited for it. While it's already been said, it does feel a lot like the previous Mass Effects. However, I'm seeing a lot of big changes. I'm seeing more fluid combat, more heavy RPG aspect. I'm seeing more open world. I feel like it's Mass Effect stepped up.
Yeah.
The only thing I could say about it is the only complaint with the previous Mass Effects, as well as the facial animations, aren't particularly good.
Yeah, I kind of noticed that too. The facial animations were a little rough.
Yeah,
Yeah, like you mentioned, RPG elements I think is a huge thing coming back to the series, because over time they just stripped more and more RPG elements from the game, and it looks like they're kind of bringing those back now with being able to like upgrade armor and stuff like that. So I'm intrigued. Some people are upset about seeing a lot of the same aliens, like seeing Krogans and stuff like that, but whatever. Yeah, I don't know. I understand where they're coming from, but at the same time, you want a level of familiarity, right?
Right.
So, I get it. I get where BioWare's head's at.
What's wrong with the same aliens?
The next ones I'm going to burn through really quick because they're kind of whatever. Halo Wars Definitive Edition. That's cool. I guess it's a remaster of Halo Wars for the Xbox One. I'm sure it's got all the extra content and whatnot. This is just something that Microsoft can easily put out to try to appease players and garner hype for Halo Wars 2. So, it's just like any company putting out. It's like Sony putting out the Uncharted collection before they put out Uncharted 4. It's the same thing. So that's cool. If you want to play Halo Wars again, you'll be able to do it on your Xbox One. Bulletstorm Full Clip Edition announced. I don't know why.
Bulletstorm had very mediocre success.
It had like middling reviews and it didn't sell that great.
I mean, it's not a bad game, but
it's not a bad game by any means.
360, but it also fell short.
Yeah. So a remastered edition. I don't know why, but I guess if it's easy enough for them to do.
Anything to make a little bit of money,
Anything to make a little bit of extra money. It's got Duke Nukem in it, so Gearbox is making that sweet money from it, too.
Oh, I see.
Does Gearbox own the game now? Did Gearbox own it to begin with?
Do.
I have no idea how that works, because originally it was owned by Epic.
Right.
Like of Gears of War fame.
Right.
So, is it... I don't know. I might have to look into that.
That's always been confusing for me, is publisher versus developer.
Rocket League Starbase Arc was also shown. It's a new stage for Rocket League. There's also some new cars and stuff.
Which is going to excite some people because it's a very popular game.
Yeah, some people really... The community that really likes Rocket League really likes Rocket League.
Yeah.
So that's cool for them.
And that's cool, too. I mean, I think Rocket League, just as a game, it's kind of simple in concept. It doesn't really need anything new to, make it more fun. I mean, they're adding some cool stuff. So.
But they have, they've added, the basketball game mode, and they added a hockey game mode, and they added modifiers so you can change the way everything behaves. So...
Oh, I didn't know about that.
Rocket League's cool. I think it's a really cool game. And it's, like you said, super simplistic and easy to get into. It's the type of game that's easy to learn, incredibly difficult to master. If you've seen any professional Rocket League, that stuff is crazy.
Yeah, some of the tricks they do.
Okay.
So yeah, more Rocket League. Rocket League's always cool. That's the end of the TGAs. We're moving off of TGAs. We're moving on to PSX announcements now. Uncharted: The Lost Legacy. A little bit of gameplay shown off at the beginning of the event, kind of kick the event off. It's a DLC standalone kind of thing for Uncharted 4, in the same way that Sony does a lot of their DLCs. Like the First Light was a standalone for Infamous, and I think the Last of Us DLC was also a standalone. You know what I'm talking about? The one with Ellie and her friend?
Left Behind, I think?
Left Behind. I'm pretty sure that was also a standalone thing that you could get. So, kind of keeping the train rolling on that. You play as Chloe, which is cool, because Chloe's not really in Uncharted 4 at all. But, where's Chloe? What's Chloe got going on?
I'm just happy she's back at all, to be honest.
Some people really like Chloe.
Yeah, she was one of the main... one of the more interesting characters from Uncharted 2 and 3.
You got faces over there, Donovan. What?
Some people do really like Chloe. They do. Some people are Not huge fans of Chloe.
Some people wish that maybe Nathan Drake got with Chloe.
Yes.
Yeah,
Isn't that the theory of every game? Like, why are they not together?
Single guys like Chloe, I think, more than not single guys. I think she's an interesting choice. At first, I was really mad about it, just because I'm like, oh, Chloe, what's up? I would have bet before it's something about, like, remember Cutter? I don't know if you knew.
Yeah.
I would have, like, if it was about Cutter, I'd be like, oh, that's cool.
Or a lot of people were thinking, why isn't this about Sam? Like, why isn't this a Sam DLC? Where you get to see what Sam was doing.
Yeah. That makes sense,
so,
too. But,
I don't know, but it's cool. It's cool. And Nadine, also young. It looks like younger Nadine.
Yeah.
So maybe this takes place a little bit before... the events of.
I've shielded my eyes from from Uncharted 4. I know more than the original trailers, of course, because I just couldn't help myself. But I'm kind of ignorant when it comes to that.
Okay.
So there's a world that I'm kind of missing here. But I mean,
same here.
Right.
Yeah.
It seems like it'll be interesting.
It flew right by me, and I'm like, "What happened?"
Yeah. The fact that Chloe is even back as a playable character is one of the huge pluses that a lot of people are looking forward to as well. But yeah, so.
All right, moving on. The comeback trailer, Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy.
Yep.
So this is actually a built from the ground up Crash Bandicoot. A lot of people were thinking they're just gonna do some texture upgrades to the PS1 games and stuff. Nah, this is like a remaster of the Crash Bandicoot series.
Yeah, they're even using an entirely new engine for this whole remaster.
They've rebuilt the game, basically.
Yeah.
And now it's a little strange to me because they've rebuilt it so much, but they've kept the very, weird, blocky movements. I like it because it stays old, and I love it. I'm glad they didn't change it, but most studios, they decide to change that as well.
And that would be... I think that's where it becomes, where the realm of remake to remaster, you know what I mean? If you start going in and changing controls... and changing how the game fundamentally plays, that's in remake territory.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Here it's just a way better graphics, way better environments, way better looking.
Yeah, it's still that 3D platforming element.
But it controls exactly the same as you remember it.
Yeah.
Which I think is good.
Yeah.
It keeps that nostalgia, which is so very important to games like Crash Bandicoot.
And maybe it reminds people of, Crash Bandicoot doesn't control all that great. Maybe they should change it up when they do decide to make a new Crash Bandicoot.
A lot. Even though this is, I'm just throwing this out there, a lot of people like to think of this maybe as a sign that they may even start working on an entirely new Crash Bandicoot.
And we'll see with a few other things on this list. I think Sony is putting out remasters of things just to garner... kind of just to see what the reception is, you know what I mean? See how well these remasters sell, so that maybe they will make a Crash Bandicoot, a new Crash Bandicoot in the future. Even though I want to say that the licensing on that game is really weird
for Crash.
Yeah, because
it is.
Activision owns it, but Naughty Dog owns it. So
they've given
Sony
themselves
owns
out
it
to a lot of different companies. So
I don't know exactly how that whole thing works out, but I mean, obviously they must have some licensing because they're able to put out this trilogy. So we'll see in the future if this sells well. Maybe we'll see a Crash Bandicoot, a brand new Crash Bandicoot.
They'd be smart too. It's very popular today.
Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. Had a little bit of a teaser and then some actual gameplay shown off later in the night at the Capcom Cup. Is that what that was called?
Yeah, Capcom Cup.
So it's cool. A lot of people were worried about the Marvel vs. Capcom series, obviously, because now with Disney owning the rights to Marvel, a lot of the licensing things kind of got messed up. I don't know if you guys know this, but all of the games were removed from storefronts and stuff like that. You can't buy... You can obviously buy a physical copy of a Marvel vs. Capcom, but you can't buy a digital copy of Marvel vs. Capcom anywhere anymore because they had to pull all of them off of the store because Capcom didn't have the licensing to the Marvel franchise anymore.
Yeah, and it wasn't just Capcom, actually. It was a lot of other Marvel licensed games.
Yeah, a lot of Marvel licensed games got pulled down at the same time. But the Marvel vs. Capcom was kind of the big deal because there's still a fighting game, like a competitive fighting game surrounding the game and stuff like that.
They still use Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 at a lot of tournaments still, at EVO and things like that as well. But yeah, so I'm just happy that they're making a new Marvel vs. Capcom game at all, because that's actually one of my favorite fighting game franchises as well.
I do really like Marvel vs. Capcom.
It's a fun one. It definitely stands out amongst fighting games.
Yeah, it's not only because of the characters from the Marvel and Capcom, but the mechanics. I like that as well. And this is actually they've announced certain features as well. Like this is going to be the first Marvel vs. Capcom game with a cinematic story mode as well, and things like that to come.
Yeah, they've also made some mechanic changes. Like now you have teams of 2 instead of teams of 3, like the originals.
Better.
Yeah, and other things like obviously X-Men aren't going to be in the game because Marvel doesn't own the rights to them anymore.
A little bit
so obviously some staples of the series like Wolverine and Cyclops might not be in the game. But it looks like they're going to try to flesh it out with other Marvel characters. In the teaser, they showed who was it? Miss Marvel?
Her name's Captain Marvel.
Captain Marvel.
But yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean they'll try to flesh out the roster, and I'm sure it'll be fine. Might not have a lot of people's favorites, but maybe new favorites. Right?
Yeah.
There's always new characters, new people to be into. We're going to take a quick break here on Gamer Life 209. Stay tuned because we are going to be right back with more discussion about these events. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
All right, I turned down a little bit. Okay, so I know we totally just cut off like everyone's favorite song, but we wanted to tell everybody that we have a new YouTube channel, and we need you to subscribe to the new channel because we're not uploading or streaming on the old channel anymore. It's still the Voice of Stockton.
It's going to be fresh, brand new.
New content.
Great content.
Yeah.
Only exclusively on KXVS.
Yes, if you and on this video will be a link in the description where you can click it, but if you want to type it in, we made it real easy for you. Bit.ly, the short link, bit.ly. So you can type bit.ly/subscribe_KXVS_YouTube. So bit.ly/subscribe_KXVS_YouTube. That's easy enough, right, Donovan? Donovan is a silent minority.
Speechless.
I'm trying to get my accent right. Hold on. I'm just throwing over it in my head. Let me start. Hold on. Yeah, hold on. How to do it? All right, I don't know about you guys, but I'm going to go subscribe to this new channel. It sounds interesting.
Yeah.
Yo, what's different about this channel than the last one?
Well,
what's changed?
Well, we're making some changes. We're always doing something new, but this is something that we had to do this, and we had to do this for a while. So this new channel, it's really not much different, except the channel will be different. So all our new content is going on the channel, and we're going to migrate all our videos over to that channel as well, and we won't be using the old channel. So if you're waiting on that channel, you'll be missing it. So please do subscribe to our new channel, and it's real easy. Follow us on Facebook, thevoiceofstockton.org. You can find us everywhere. Keep watching us on our live streams, but that's it. We just wanted to break in and tell you that.
And let's make Stockton better together.
That's right. Make Stockton better together. All right. So, you know what? Let's start this track over because this is the best bomb song. And thank you for tuning in. Appreciate you. KXVS, the Voice of Stockton with Donovan and Mr. Details, Dustin Breakwell. This is Governor Don signing off.
DJ Nikki D,
London Mark,
Alex,
and you can catch us on the Rise and Shine 209 show.
We talk about music, sports, pop culture, and whatever we feel like talking about.
Anything funny, interesting that we can give you our insight to.
From 7 to 10 a.m. Monday through Friday, right here on KXVS.
The Voice of Stockton.
Right here on 92.1 FM. Coming soon. $1 a day can buy you great radio. At the Voice of Stockton, the GoFundMe is a way to help ensure you have great radio here in Stockton. You can be the voice of Stockton on KXVS. Go to our website, thevoiceofstockton.org, to get more information. Right here on 92.1 FM. Coming soon.
KXVS, the voice of Stockton, live. The voice of Stockton at Stone Soup Studio. KXVS.org.
And we are back to Gamer Life 209 here live on KXVS, the voice of Stockton. Of course, I am Joey Biscacci here in the studio with
Brendan.
And Ira Ford.
I am sorry, Ira. I didn't turn your mic on, even though I thought I did.
Oh, we're
So we're rocking and rolling straight through the PSX announcements. So we're going to keep that moving. NAC 2 was revealed. Okay.
Yeah, NAC actually wasn't really one of the... It was one of the launch titles for the PlayStation 4 when it first came out. So... But despite it not getting like the best reviews from critics, there were still a few people out there who did enjoy the game. So I'm guessing those people are still excited for this announcement as well for NAC 2 coming out. You guys, any of you played the first NAC?
I have not actually.
I've not played the first NAC. No.
Yeah.
Now, I think this is a case of NAC selling a lot better than the general gaming populace thinks it did. You know what I mean? I think that there was probably really, really good reception to NAC when it came out with kids and families and stuff like that. New people who were like, I'm going to buy a PS4 for my 9-year-old because they want a PS4. What's this NAC game? This is cute and fun. So I think NAC actually did a lot better than people think it did. Now, in terms of Mark Cerny, having the audacity to premiere it on the stage at PSX, I think it's kind of funny because, most of the people watching PSX probably don't care that much about NAC.
Yeah, it's more of an adult audience.
Yeah, it's more of an adult / family-oriented audience. And most people are watching PSX for big video game announcements.
For a lot of the AAA stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So,
yeah, NAC's not a AAA.
I think it was just kind of like a ha-ha, throwing it kind of in the face of gamers at the same time announcing NAC 2. Because it's funny, even though people are kind of NAC, it's almost like a meme at this point. You know what I mean? That oh man, NAC. So yeah, NAC 2 is happening. You got 2 NACs now, so you can do co-op NAC, I guess. Yeah, NAC's cool, I guess. So that's a big reveal, but not as big of a reveal as Parappa, Patapon, and Loco Roco remasters coming to PS4. Now, the Parappa remaster was kind of hinted and rumored at over the past couple weeks, I think. But the Patapon and Loco Roco one came out of nowhere. Any of you guys have experience with these games? Probably not.
Playing them, no, but I know plenty about them because they're one of those video games that were popular with specific groups, it seems, and they get honorable mentions a lot. They'll come around and just be like, hey, this is going on, and then it'll cut to something else. But you see them, but for the longest time, I, for one, didn't know what it was until I looked into it.
Yeah. Ira, what do you know about Parappa?
Parappa the Rapper, the only one I played was the first one in the 90s. And actually, it is, like you said, for a certain group of gamers. It's not for everybody. It's one of those, I compare it to more one of those mini games type of games, where you could play different activities.
Like WarioWare Smooth Moves or something like that.
Something like that. Yeah, but I actually enjoyed it for what it was, where you got to try to match the beats during different levels or segments of the Parappa the Rapper games. And that's what I enjoyed about it the most.
Yeah, Parappa's gameplay, I don't know if holds up that great nowadays. Although it is nice to have a remaster because I know that the old Parappas don't play well anymore because of latency on modern TVs and stuff like that. So having a remaster will be nice for people who want to go back and play Parappa. This is a remaster of the first game, not because I've never played Parappa 2, but I hear it's terrible. So they probably were just like, let's just put out Parappa 1. It gives them less work, and it's the only one people really want anyway. Patapon and Loco Roco, which, in my opinion, some of the, they're great games, but staple games on the PSP that just haven't been seen for, like, years. So, again, this is another case of, like, is Sony trying to gauge the amount of, like, hype and excitement for Loco Roco and Parappa and Patapon to see if maybe making a new Patapon, maybe making a new Loco Roco, that type of stuff would be worth it in terms of monetary investment. So if you like those games, buy those games because you're telling Sony that you want more.
Yeah, Sony's testing the waters.
Yeah, they're testing the waters, exactly. So. And if you don't tell them that you want it, they won't make it for you. So, like people always say, vote with your wallet. Normally it's negatively, normally it's in a negative connotation. Like, don't buy something if you don't want that company doing something. If you want that company to do something, buy their stuff. Yeah. Because they'll do it.
It's always like those jokes where somebody announces something cool and it's got, what's his face from Futurama?
Yeah.
Take my money.
Yeah, take my money. If I could just throw my money at the screen, take it. Horizon Zero Dawn trailer, that game's out soon. We've seen so much of it at this point that it's almost played out to some extent. It looks cool. It looks like a really cool, interesting open world game that's a lot different, I think, than stuff that we've been getting lately. It does look like it maybe has like Far Cry elements to it, but I'm interested in the world. I like post-apocalyptic games, you know what I mean, where like it's not Fallout because life has kind of like retaken over to some extent.
Yeah, that's kind of just the regrowth era in like most games. Like most games don't do that. They have directly after it, directly before or during.
Yeah.
Not a lot of them take the step of, okay, it's already happened.
Yeah, it's happened, and now it's almost like a fantasy or like a bedtime story to the humans that live on the planet.
Yeah, exactly.
It's in the same way that like we go and scout historical sites. It's like that, but for modern times. I have a weird fascination with seeing like modern buildings as ruins, as like 1,000-year-old cultural, like geological ruins.
I think the reason for that is probably because of it gives you a whole new view and aspect of what's going on and what it was like. It's like when games talk about, like the very few games that do this, and they talk about like the world was rotting before, like they're talking about like current time, it would be rotting, and it's like sometimes that gives you a whole new perspective on what's going on, even in the real world. Like sometimes these little connections from video games can make you rethink what's going on around you.
Yeah. So we'll see with Horizon Zero Dawn. It comes out in like a few months at this point, like spring 2017. So we should have that in our hands pretty quickly here. Here's a fun one that probably most of the people in the room are watching. We're like, huh? Windjammers coming to PS4 and PS Vita. If you don't know what Windjammers is, it's a competitive flying disc game that's kind of like, I don't know, think of it like air hockey, but with cool-looking 80s, 90s athletic people flinging a frisbee at each other. Yeah, it's cool. I think Windjammers is a neat little game. A kind of forgotten game, because if I recall correctly, it was on like some weird, obscure console.
Wasn't CDI, was it?
No. I want to say it was like, oh man, I don't even know, like the Neo Geo or something like that.
That is kind of obscure.
Yeah, really obscure. So not a lot of people know about it, but it looks like they're putting out a not remaster. It's original kind of state pixel art, that whole jam. But you can now get Windjammers digitally on PS4. Well, not now, but it's coming soon. And Vita. Don't forget about Vita. I think even Sony forgets about Vita sometimes. Neo. This is that game coming from Bandai Koei Tecmo.
Yeah, I think it was Koei Tecmo.
It's basically like Onimusha Dark Souls.
Yeah,
that's what I've heard.
That's what I heard too. You were basically playing as a samurai again in this game, and Onimusha was actually one of my favorite games from the PlayStation 2 days, and that I enjoyed. So this is one I actually would like to see. I like to try out in the current gen as well.
Yeah, so it's cool looking. It's got that kind of ancient Japanese vibe to it, but seemingly controls very much like a Dark Souls kind of game that's kind of slow, methodical. Watch enemies and learn their attack patterns so you can attack them properly and stuff like that. People are really excited about it. Maybe not really for me. I'm not a super big fan of the aesthetic, but people are really stoked for it. And from what I hear, it plays well, and people are really liking it. So that's one to be looking forward to. Check out Neo if you're looking for kind of like a Dark Souls-esque game, but not high fantasy or Lovecraftian horror.
The style is very popular.
Yeah. Resident Evil 7 Biohazard, there was a little bit of, like a little teaser trailer. I think there's a longer folder trailer as well. Sony's doubling down on the VR. Sony and Capcom are really doubling down on the VR here with this. It seems like they built a Resident Evil game from the ground up to be in VR. From what I've seen, it almost seems like a kind of like not a remaster, but like they're copying the first game in a lot of ways. Seems like you're in a mansion, and you're doing puzzles to get yourself out of the mansion. Yeah,
which is what was looking for in Resident Evil, because as much as I enjoyed Resident Evil 6, it was not Resident Evil.
Yeah, exactly.
An action game.
And I think that this is very much a reaction to Resident Evil 6. They heard people, like fans' cries about Resident Evil 6. And I think even to some extent Resident Evil 5 was getting that. And they doubled down on the action.
Resident Evil got it heavy because the partner.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of... I think Capcom for a long time wasn't listening to people. And I don't know if they've just got new management or what. It's not uncommon for Japanese companies to be stubborn. You know what I mean? Nintendo, super stubborn. Sega, super stubborn.
Those are the two biggest names for stubbornness. They just never... They're like, no, we're going to do it our way.
But Capcom's listening. They see what people want. I think they saw the opportunity in VR to be like, oh, we can basically remake Resident Evil 1 in VR, and it's a totally different new experience. You know what I mean? Obviously, not they're not remaking Resident Evil 1, I
think the VR is actually a good idea with something like Resident Evil, because I noticed, horror games are always scarier when you feel the immersion, and with VR, that's the idea, is to put you inside the game. So instead of just sitting there with sweaty palms on your couch and like slightly freaking out at things, in VR, you're going to feel that fear, or at least for the most part, it's going to really set you off. Like, you're not even going to be at the point where it's like, okay, I can manage this. You're going to see a lot of people play it, and they're going to be like, nope, I'm done, I can't, but obviously they're going to come back to it. That's the thing about video games. Put it down, it's like, darn it, got to do it again.
So, yeah, Resident Evil is looking really cool. I think it's going to be a test for the success of VR. We'll see if this game really works. Obviously, there's some concern that people are going to be getting like really sick playing it. You know what I mean? Just the disconnect between your character moving and you not moving in real life that creates motion sickness. But like I've said this before, and I'll say it again, I think that's a hurdle that we as like humanity need to get over. Like VR, we can do VR. We just need to get past the difficulty of like the motion sickness. Once we teach our bodies that like, oh, it's totally fine, everything's fine, don't freak out because I'm not actually moving, then we'll be totally fine and can do whatever we want in VR. It's just a matter of getting to that point and getting over that obstacle of, like maybe you have to play VR for a few hours and like puke your brains out while you're doing it and stuff, just to like break yourself.
I feel it's going to be like it's something you're going to have to train yourself into, definitely. Or if that's not the case, then it may be something we change, as a species into, like something we start to connect,
adapt to. And I think like as like kids use VR, as people grow up with VR, doing things in VR will inherently just be easier.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? A couple of quick, some A-tier Japanese games. Gravity Rush 2 got a DLC announcement trailer. I don't know much about Gravity Rush 2, but it looks neat. So if you're into Gravity Rush 2, you can go check out that DLC announcement trailer. I think you get to play as a character that you don't normally get to play as, that people really like. Who's, I don't know her name, but she's got like feathers and stuff. Maybe it's like Raven or something like that. I don't know. But Gravity Rush 2 looks kind of cool if you're into it. You got DLC coming out. Ni no Kuni 2 Revenant Kingdom was announced. Now I did not play the original Ni no Kuni, but people really, really, really like the original Ni no Kuni. It has, I want to say it's done by Studio Ghibli, right? I might be wrong about that, but it has a very Studio Ghibli art style.
Yeah, that's
Totoro.
It's because it's so very popular.
Yeah, and it's. I don't know exactly how the RPG mechanics work, but they're refined down to more of a classical JRPG. Maybe not like Bravely Default is, but with Final Fantasy 15 being basically an action game, not much different than like Kingdom Hearts was, really. I think there's room for that kind of more original Japanese kind of RPG style of game.
Yeah, I noticed it's kind of been waning.
Yeah.
It's not as much there as it was before.
And that may be because they're trying to like appeal to Western markets and stuff like that. But there's definitely still a market for that type of game. And the like long party-driven, original kind of classic JRPG. So Ni no Kuni is a great, thing for that. It's a game for those types of gamers that are looking for that experience.
I heard this one also is going to continue, because the first Ni no Kuni had kind of like an open world aspect to it, I believe. But even though it wasn't that big, though, but I'm hoping like this one has something like that as well. It's also coming.
Okay, moving on. Yakuza Kiwame and Yakuza 6 Song of Life coming to the PS4. Big news for people who are really into Yakuza. I had never really played the Yakuza series, so I don't know what the fuss is about. But people really like those. So
they're a very unique game. They capture the feeling of being like that kind of criminal, but not like a straight up criminal like in like a GTA style.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times there's underlying motives, there's ideas, ideals, beliefs, and so many things that define these characters that make them unique. And sometimes it's kind of quirky, and that's kind of the charm of it. Kind of like with Metal Gear Solid, that was kind of the charm. And then from what I've seen of the combat mechanics, it gives you a very freestyle way to fight without getting too intensive and being crazy.
Pretty true, yeah.
So it's more about the characters, less about the crime.
Yeah.
And I could tell that from the trailer. So maybe I'll have to check out, since I want to say Kiwame, however you pronounce that. I want to say that's like a remake of the first game on the PS4. So maybe I'll have to check that out to check out what Yakuza's all about. But if you're into Yakuza 6 coming to the PS4, so that's pretty hype. Danganronpa V3 Killing Harmony. I have not played the Danganronpa games, but people really like the Danganronpa games.
They are very popular currently.
They're neat. I like the character design and like a lot of the aesthetic of it. It's just a matter of playing it for me. You know what I mean? To be fair, I don't even really know what the gameplay is like because I haven't played it. So
sometimes it's hard to find time to get into all these different games.
I haven't really looked into it. It's originally primarily like a Vita game, right? So,
I believe so.
Yeah, don't own a Vita, so it's kind of hard to play video games and stuff like that. But yeah, new elements, another crime case that the kids got to solve, I guess. Based on the trailer, it comes off a lot like Persona, which is another one we're going to get to in a minute here. But Danganronpa V3, big news for people in Danganronpa. So get hyped for that. Let It Die, the next on the list here. This is a Grasshopper game, which I'm trying to think of the other games that they are known for. I want to say like Killer 7, and like
yeah, I think that's right.
and some weird things. No More Heroes. Is that a Grasshopper game, or is that a Suda 50?
I think that's.
I don't know.
I don't think it's either of those. I could be
but
wrong.
it's a free-to-play game, oddly enough, or at least the day, like, it's out now. You can play it now. It's kind of like a roguelike dungeon crawler, from what I've heard, which is interesting. I might have to check it out. But based on the trailer, it looks super weird, like what you would expect from a Grasshopper game. They're just known for kind of that weird, not like Kojima weird. Well, maybe like Kojima weird.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, that kind of,
Except they're more direct with it sometimes. Like Kojima's got like these quirks as opposed to, Grasshopper games, which is more like it's out there.
Yeah, they're just weird on the surface. So that's cool. You can check that out now. Download it for free and give it a play on the PlayStation Store. Next, Persona 5 story trailer. They're just going to keep pumping out trailers until Persona 5 comes out.
Persona is a series I'm very fond of.
Oh, yeah?
I've only played so many of them because I don't actually own PlayStations of any sort, really. But Persona, I played the PSP version, I believe it was, at a friend's, and for Persona 3 FES, and it's always... And then I've seen lots of gameplay for the others. It's so unique, even amongst JRPGs, because it gives you a different style of story. Instead of being big heroes who are, destined to do this or that, and you're already some powerful, great thing.
Every game's got the chosen one, who's the one to save the world and stuff like that.
And while Persona does that, they don't slap it in your face. It's kind of one of those things that it's kind of... there, but unlike say Skyrim, which is like Dragonborn, you're just experiencing unique experiences, and then from that you determine yourself more than anything that I'm the chosen one, and then it's great, and then you got all the unique RPG elements that make it feel less like a straight up combat game. Mm-hmm. Like with Persona 3, in many of the Personas, you go to school and do that and have that whole...
Yeah, you have like the character's social life and like daily life to contend with on top of the traditional RPG elements.
And, of course, those social links also increase your power with certain... I don't know what they're going to call them in 5, but...
Companions, like
party
members.
Your actual abilities, like they're the creatures whose name I forget, but they're always different, so...
Okay. So, Persona 5, looking good, looking hype. It's been, slated to release for a long time now. And
I'm such a dork. They're Personas. That's what they are.
Yeah.
Such a dork.
But Persona 5 is coming out soon. So, even though I'm pretty sure it's been delayed a couple times at this point. Get hype for Persona. Gran Turismo Sport, next on the list. It's a car game. It looks real pretty, like you would expect a Gran Turismo to look. I think car games are kind of like the staple of how good can we make video games look.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because cars, I think, are something that... it's different than like people, because people are organic. Cars are mechanical, so it's really just like make them look right, make them move right.
It's more about the functionality than the... the inner, workings.
Yeah.
It's more about what are the straight numbers of it as opposed to the non-static, effects of what this is or that is.
So, Gran Turismo's looking real pretty. It's got VR support, which I think is what you would expect in a car game, since, that kind of cockpit type of environment works so well for a VR game. That's why
it's easier to do than something big.
Yeah. That's why driving games work. That's why space sim, piloting games work. Another one that's on this list, that I think I might have skipped over. Ace Combat.
Really? It's making another one, huh?
Yeah, new Ace Combat's got VR support on the PlayStation.
That's good news.
Like you would... Yeah, Ace Combat 7. I totally skipped over it. I'm a dork. Ace Combat 7, another game with VR support. And like I said, that is the type of game that is designed to work with VR well.
Yeah.
Like maybe it's not designed, but just inherently the nature of VR, it works with that style of game. So I think when those come out, it'll make VR owners happy, and it'll be kind of like a test bed of when people come over, you can be like, oh, dude, check out Gran Turismo. Isn't this super cool in VR? Check out Ace Combat. Isn't it super cool to fly around the ship? And
Ace Combat's been around a long time, but they're not as pumping out as much games as other big names, but played it back when it was Air Combat, and then I played Ace Combat 3.
Now, Gran Turismo, it's a Gran Turismo, so, you know, look forward to that if you're into cars.
And
the one
crashing.
and crashing. The only thing about the Gran Turismo series for me is that it's so simulation heavy, as opposed to something like Forza, which toes the line a little better in my opinion.
Yeah,
of like simulation, but also fun racing game.
Yeah, getting out of control just a little bit.
Yeah, but there are people who are really into the Gran Turismo series because of how simulation heavy it is. The Gran Turismo series has been really weird on the PlayStation as of late. Of like, I think there were ones on the PS3, but
I think there was one or two.
Yeah, I don't know. So to see, hopefully, what is a good big full Gran Turismo game on the PS4 will appease a lot of fans. Nex Machina, I think is what this game is called. No, not Ex Machina. Nex Machina.
I never heard of that.
The game from Housemarque.
Yeah, never heard of that one.
Yeah, it's basically just a twin stick shooter. It looks like it plays really great, and the visuals are really good. So, and Housemarque always makes good playing games. Stuff like Resogun and stuff like that. So, twin stick shooter, again, kind of their bread and butter. It's what Housemarque does really well. So, based on the trailer, it looks really cool. And it looks like another good, small, not indie game, but arcade-esque game to hang out and play on your PS4. Destiny, Rise of Iron, the Dawning trailer. Of course, can't have a Sony event with a little bit of Destiny in there, right? They just showed off strike scoring, some new exotics that are coming to the game. The Sparrow Racing is back, which is cool if you like Sparrow Racing. Just more stuff to get. They made a few quality of life improvements in terms of like how you get weapon skins, and I think how items from the event are going to be kind of doled out to players, going to be awarded to players, because they got a lot of criticism with the last event that they had, that it was too, like microtransaction heavy in SKU. So they're trying to kind of reel that back and make fans a little happier with them. But that's Activision trying to pull as much money out of people as they possibly can.
At least they're not EA.
Yeah, that's the funny thing about it is as much hate as EA gets, at least EA doesn't add like loot chests to games with weapons that are better than other weapons. You know what I mean? Like, I
suppose for the most part, I think there's a couple they've done that with.
EA, don't get me wrong, EA is no saint. I still think, for instance, like the premium pass on Battlefield. Why? What are you doing, EA? I don't want to get too tangential on this, but we've seen generation of Battlefield after generation of Battlefield that these premium passes are not good. They split the player base for like 2 weeks, and then everybody just goes back to the original default maps because nobody has the new maps. So it's like you're paying for this content, and DICE is putting effort into making this content that nobody even plays. Nobody even gets to see. Or like 10%, maybe more, 25% of Battlefield players get to experience this content, but everybody else doesn't see it. So like, what's the point in putting in the time and effort?
Yeah, it's the time split that bothers me the most with them.
I just don't understand EA's rationale there, especially considering they went ahead and bit the bullet on Titanfall, understandably, because I think Titanfall needed a little bit more of a boost in terms of consumer cachet and respect to be like, oh, if I get Titanfall, I get the season pass and all the stuff for free. It's just it's a mind-boggling to me that they still did it with Battlefield after the nightmare that was Battlefield 4's premium and Hardline premium, which is even worse. Hardline barely had a player count to begin with, and now you're trying to split up the player base on new, like different maps. Incredibly short-sighted, and I don't think EA understands what they're doing.
Yeah, probably not.
Or they just don't care. They care more about the money that
is
they can be
definitely the
made
case.
from that little bit of premium sales, as opposed to trying to make a game that... Because there's other things they can sell. Like, they're already selling battle packs, so why don't they just sell weapon skins? Why don't they just sell character skins? Like, why don't you just go all the way so that people can get things for free like they do with Rainbow Six? I don't know. Anyway, Destiny, The Dawning. If you're really into Destiny, you got more Destiny coming. Hopefully Bungie will be able to kind of hold people over until Destiny 2 finally gets announced and released, presumably next year. Another, not really remaster, but I guess Wipeout Omega collection of the Wipeout games, obviously rendered all up to look nice on the PS4 and whatnot. Again, probably testing the waters to see if people want a Wipeout game, like a new Wipeout game. Looks cool, looks how you remember Wipeout, but at the same time, you know, it's a PS1 game, I think. Is it a PS1 game? What is Wipeout? PS1, PS2 game?
Don't know.
I think there's... I don't know. I think there's one on both of them.
Blank.
Yeah, but Wipeout collection, again, if you want a new Wipeout, you should probably pick up the Wipeout collection, because that's how Sony's going to be figuring out whether or not there's whether or not these IPs are going to sell. You know what I mean? So if you want more of this IP, buy it. Moving on from Wipeout, kind of small topic, you know, Wipeout to Wipeout. If you know what Wipeout is, racing boats, fast boat racing. Is it boat racing? Wipeout's boat, or is it? It's like it's not boats. They're like ships.
Yeah, I can't seem to recall. Very
I want to
well.
say it's like what do you call it? I can't even think of the game series that Captain Falcon's from.
Oh, F-Zero.
F-Zero. It's F-Zero, but on the PlayStation, basically. So, yeah, Wipeout. Check that out. Absolver, which is a game coming from Devolver Digital. Neat. It's like this weird silhouette-y martial arts fighting game. It's kind of weird, but at the same time, kind of like really cool.
Nice little touch to it.
Yeah. I think I think the art style really is kind of the main thing about it that comes off, as with a lot of like indie games and stuff like that. But yeah, that game's looking really cool. Go check out the trailer for Absolver to see some of that action. Neat little like third-person fighting game of sorts. I don't know if it's necessarily... It doesn't really look like a fighting game, per se. It looks more kind of like... Think maybe For Honor. You know, kind of like lock on and then fight a person. So that game's looking really neat. And I recommend everybody go check it out. Remember, Absolver. Moving on... Last couple of things. One a big deal, one not really a big deal. The show 17, of course, they had to show off a little bit of the show, MLB The Show, baseball game. Kind of like the premier baseball game. Yeah, I mean, it's a baseball game. It's the show. It's kind of... I feel the same way about it as, like, whenever EA, in the middle of their press conference, is like, all right, we're going to show you Madden and FIFA and NHL now. And it's like, you're showing us the same exact thing that you've shown us every single year for like 2 decades.
I feel the reason those are so popular is because sports are naturally a very
Yeah,
big thing, and there's always something new, like usually new people.
Yeah.
You know, it changes over time, and
Yeah.
sometimes you want to reflect that. So naturally they will update it, make it new, but you know, game companies aren't
Yeah.
really any company. Well, let's make it something entirely different as opposed to an update or a DLC.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like, sports games sell really well. People
Yes,
really
they do.
like sports games, but I feel like between the years, nothing really changes in sports games other than they get a little prettier. Some mechanics get either tweaked, removed, or added.
Yeah, the changes
And
are typically
a new player
huge.
roster.
The changes are not very big, but they are important to big sports fans.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that's the reason I've always been kind of like, why are you showing this at a press conference?
Right.
Like, you could be showing, like, you could just put this trailer out, and you know, all the people really into Madden, it'll pop up in their Madden feed,
Right.
or into their their Twitter feed or something from other Madden people that they're like friends with or whatever. Maybe I have no idea how sports game fans get their news, but part of me feels like the people who are really into Madden probably aren't watching a 2-hour-long Sony press conference or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
So, I mean, but they had to show it. It's something that a team's working on. And I'm sure there were people there that were hyped about baseball games. The show's good. It's a good game. Like, I don't mean to throw shade at it. I just kind of have a slight amount of animosity towards sports games because they come out every single year and they're the same game, but they charge you a full price for it every single year.
Yeah, I would say if it was like half the price of a full game, then it would be more like
It would make or like if you could trade in the old one for the new one at a much reduced price point or something like that.
Yeah, that would be good. You know, things like that, simple little things that can make all the difference in a game.
So we're almost done here. We're going to finish it off with the last thing that was shown off, PSX. The Last of Us Part 2 reveal trailer. Just a reveal trailer. Ellie's older.
Yes.
Joel's still around. It looks like Ellie's mad at the fireflies and she's going to go kill some fireflies.
Yep, that's a lot of speculation.
But that's basically the extent of the trailer.
The Last of Us 2 was revealed at the PlayStation Experience, and you're going to be playing as Ellie this time around instead of Joel, but you might still play as him in some type of section when the game comes out, like you did in Ellie in the first game. But this trailer got a lot of people amped up and looking forward to it, even though it's not going to be out for at least a couple more years.
Yeah, at least a couple more years. A lot of people are thinking 2019 game, so long time to wait. Maybe kind of the question of why do you announce it so early, but understandably, now that Uncharted's over, they want to garner a little bit of hype for the next game, even if it's still 2 years off.
Yeah, so that can either work or that could make you sink, because sometimes when it takes longer to come out, you get more and more excited, and you're more likely just to go get it when it does come out, but sometimes that upsets people, and they're like, well, if you're going to mess with us like that, we're just not going to get your stuff.
Yeah, or the case of just, like, people forget about it.
Yeah,
you know
that happens to me a lot, you know.
Like
if I don't hear about it repeatedly.
Yeah, they announced it a year ago, and then, like, a year and a half later, they put out, a trailer, and you're like, oh, yeah, that's right, that exists.
That was a thing. That was a thing.
So, but other than that, the trailer looks cool. It obviously has people who really like The Last of Us super excited. I think everybody in this room hasn't played The Last of Us.
Yeah.
No, but I've seen a fair bit of gameplay.
Yeah.
I have. I've only played a few minutes or a few bits of The Last of Us at a friend's house, but never the whole thing.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I own the game. I have The Last of Us. I just haven't played it yet. So one of these days, I'm going to put it in the disc tray and I'm going to play through it. It's just a matter of when.
You just got a bunch of people where you've probably been better off saying I don't own it.
Yeah. It's like I've tried it multiple times and it's like I really like the story stuff, but I don't like the clicker gameplay at all. Like I really don't like it. So when I get to sections of long gameplay, I get bored and just put the game down. And for me, single-player games, I have to do them in one sitting, because if I don't, I just get lost or don't care later on.
Lose interest.
Yeah, just lose interest. So, like, I have to do things in one sitting every single time.
For the most part, I'm the same.
Yeah, and with The Last of Us, which is more like a 10 to 12-hour game as opposed to, you know, kind of shooter campaigns that like to hover more in the, like, 6 to 8-hour range, that's a harder game to do in one sitting.
Yeah.
And just to maintain, you know, attention span throughout the game, I haven't really been able to do yet. And like I said earlier, my PlayStation's falling apart. So part of me doesn't want to play The Last of Us because I don't know if the PlayStation will handle it without just exploding. So that's kind of the predicament I'm in right now. But I will play The Last of Us eventually, because I am super curious into why people think the game is so great, and I want to know what happens in the story. I'm curious. I want to not worry about spoilers anymore for it.
Yeah, it's been out a couple of years at this point, so hopefully you enjoy it whenever you get around to actually playing it. But I played the couple of few minutes that I got to spend with it, despite not playing the whole thing, though. So. Yeah. So,
Last of Us 2, it's happening. It's official. I don't think anybody was really doubting that it would happen eventually.
It was too successful not to have a
But
sequel.
now we know it's going to be Joel and Ellie again. They're not it's not pulling a Kojima with Metal Gear Solid 2. You're playing as somebody else.
That was a bit awkward.
Yeah. So the people who wanted to see more Joel and Ellie, they're going to get more Joel and Ellie. I also, to make a point of, the game's called The Last of Us Part 2 rather than The Last of Us 2, which is an important distinction because it means it's Joel and Ellie's story.
It's a
continuation. It's a continuation of the first game in a way that a sequel could be whatever. You know, like think of, to bring up movies, think of like The Purge, right? The first Purge is nothing like the second Purge because they just decided to take a completely different approach with it. But like if they called it The Purge Part 2, that would have been weird because you would have been like, well, where's the family from the first one? Like, how does this tie into the first one at all? Yeah, where's the connection exactly? And with The Last of Us, it's like this is the connection. It's like a direct continuation. You're seeing the continuation of these characters' story. So I'm hyped for it, even though I haven't played the first one. Like, I've watched the trailer a lot of times. It's a fantastic trailer. And I think it says something about a game that can get you hype, even though you haven't played the first one. You know what I mean? I felt that way about Metal Gear, too, because I didn't play the Metal Gear series until after, like, trailers were already coming out for Metal Gear 5. So I was like, what is this game? This seems cool, but, like, I don't really understand it. And then, you know, going back and going through the catalog of Metal Gear games.
It's a very intensive, very deep series.
And then you get it, and you're like, oh, man, these trailers are so much better now that I get it.
Yeah, it's one of those games that the more you understand about it, the better it is by a long shot.
Which, speaking of trailers, Metal Gear Solid 5 has some of the best trailers for any game ever.
It was very
fantastic trailers. But with that being said, Last of Us 2, looking cool, even though we haven't seen gameplay or anything. The premise, I think, is exciting, and I'm definitely looking forward to it. But that has been our show here on Gamer Life 209, here live on KXVS, the voice of Stockton. Remember, you can check us out on YouTube. Type in the voice of Stockton on YouTube, where you can watch us live stream our shows or go through our back catalog and see some of the other shows that we have on to watch. In addition to that, if you can't watch us, you can listen to us wherever you have an internet connection using either the TuneIn radio app or Simple Radio. So go on to any radio app that you use and search KXVS, the voice of Stockton, and you should be able to find us and listen to us wherever you have a internet connection. With that being said, I am Joey Biscacci.
I am Brendan.
And Ira Ford.
And that has been our show. We will catch you guys next time on Gamer Life 209. We're out of here.
KXVS on 92.1. Coming soon. DJ Nikki D.
London Mark.
Al X.
And you can catch us on the Rise and Shine 209 show.
We talk about music, sports, pop culture, and whatever we feel like talking about.
Anything funny, interesting that we can give you our insight to.
From 7 to 10 a.m. Monday through Friday. Right here on KXVS.
The Voice of Stockton. Right here on 92.1 FM. Coming soon.
All right, I turned down a little bit. Okay, so I know we totally just cut off like everyone's favorite song, but we wanted to tell everybody that we have a new YouTube channel, and we need you to subscribe to the new channel because we're not uploading or streaming on the old channel anymore. It's still the Voice of Stockton.
It's going to be fresh, brand new.
New content.
Great content.
Yeah.
Only exclusively on KXVS.
Yes, if you and on this video will be a link in the description where you can click it, but if you want to type it in, we made it real easy for you. Bit.ly, the short link, bit.ly. So you can type bit.ly/subscribe_KXVS_YouTube. So bit.ly/subscribe_KXVS_YouTube. That's easy enough, right, Donovan? Donovan is a silent minority.
Speechless.
I'm trying to get my accent right. Hold on. I'm just throwing over it in my head. Let me start. Hold on. Yeah, hold on. How to do it? All right, I don't know about you guys, but I'm going to go subscribe to this new channel. It sounds interesting.
Yeah.
Yo, what's different about this channel than the last one?
Well,
what's changed?
Well, we're making some changes. We're always doing something new, but this is something that we had to